Hello viewer, I'm Christopher from Learnry. In this video, we'll be taking a look at some of the differences between the PHP and Python programming languages, and this solely is for the purpose of knowing which language is good for what and also when to use which language. So if you'd like to know whether to use PHP or Python for your next project, then watch this video to the end. Again, the knowledge you get from this video will also help you decide whether to learn PHP or Python in case you are a beginner in programming or web development. Now in this entire video, we'll be comparing these two powerful languages based on 1. Ease of installation, 2. Library management, 3. Ease of learning, 4. Application speed, 5. Debugging support, and 6. Language documentation. So let's start by taking a look at the ease of installation. Now, if you are building a small application by yourself, PHP has 3 simple advantages. Installation is a breeze, and that is because it runs well on Windows, OS X and Linux, and also can be found on a variety of shared hosting sites around the world, usually for a minimal fee. Installing Python can be a difficult proposition. If you're on OS X, there is an existing system version of Python that came installed on your computer. The bad news is that the system version of Python is usually outdated and not suitable for application development. Now trust me, you don't want to install new packages on the system Python. You will need to install a new version to make sure your system is as stable as possible. Python on Windows can also take a bit of work to install, and the most common advice is to use a Windows package manager like Chocolatey as you start out. If you are planning for a team, that little bit of extra work can add up. However, if your team is on Linux, then you have no problems installing Python. So as we can all see, PHP wins this round on account of being easier to install pretty much everywhere. Now let's take a look at library management. Python has a strong advantage over PHP when it comes to library management. Python uses pip, which stands for pip installs Python, to manage packages. Now, pip makes managing different libraries within a Python application simple, and it is also very fast. So as a Python developer, pip is an essential tool to have in your tool bag. PHP's library management isn't as strong as Python's library management. PHP 7 introduced Composer, which is a fantastic tool, mostly feature complete, and when paired with a tool like Packagist, you will get a package management close to Python's. Unfortunately, Composer is still pretty young. At the end of the day, Python has a broader variety of mature packages, and their tools are a bit easier to install and use at the same time. So Python wins when it comes to library management. Our next comparison metric is ease of learning. Python and PHP are very similar. Both are object-oriented and interpreted languages that run on a variety of operating systems. They are both dynamically typed and have excellent IDE support. Lastly, Python and PHP both stand out in the world of syntax. PHP requires that you prefix all variables with a $sign, and this makes it stand out from other C-style languages. Python's syntax is different from many other languages, and that is because it does not require the use of curly braces, but instead it embraces white space sensitivity. So which is easier to learn? Well, that is tough to say. PHP has some advantages. PHP has a double-edged sword in their array concept, which serve as something like a combination between Python's list and dictionary data types. It is a benefit because if you understand how to use an array, you can do a lot in PHP. It is also a negative because PHP often lacks quality implementations of other more focused data types. So if you are trying to do something that doesn't fit into an array, using PHP means you might need to write your own data type. In Python, that is not the case. Python has a wide variety of built-in data types that are ready to go right out of the box. The challenge with Python is often knowing which tool to use for the specific job that you are doing. That is still a challenge, but it is usually an easier one to solve. So Python does have a disadvantage that the Python 2 to Python 3 transition has not been backward compatible. One more quick word about learning PHP. It is an old language. That means that there are a lot of outdated and frankly bad tutorials out there. That is a real impediment to learning the language from scratch. Now, despite that, both languages score in this category. Now let's look at application speed. So many of the things that make web applications slow aren't related to programming languages at all. Slow database queries slow down every programming language. Relying on excessive network queries or reading a lot of information from a disk will slow you down every time. Now that said, in most circumstances, PHP is a faster programming language than Python. The core PHP team has done a great deal to speed up PHP, and with PHP 7, they succeeded. That evaluation doesn't come without caveats though. PHP famously restarts your entire application every time a web request starts. For the most part, that is not a problem. However, it can be trouble if you are working with an application that needs to share resources across requests. Now, because PHP sets up and tears down the entire application on every request, sharing resources can be difficult. Now, that is not as much of a problem for Python, and in fairness, it is something that most web applications don't need to do. It is also important to remember that no matter the language, you are not guaranteed a fast web app. If you are building a new web application and you are looking for the best performance, you should plug into a tool like Retrace. It will help you identify problem spots within your application and speed them up no matter which language you choose. So PHP gets the point here. Now it's time to look at debugging support. When you are building a new application, the most important question isn't always what happens when things work well. Often you need to know what happens when things break. Now for experienced developers, that means attaching a debugger and figuring out where your code went wrong. Both PHP and Python have very good debuggers which thousands of developers use daily. Python's step-through debugger integrates directly into IDEs like Visual Studio Code or PyCharm. If you are writing Python, all you have to do is push the debug button and you are good to go. In PHP, it is not always quite so simple. Sometimes debugging PHP can require a little bit of work first. It is not a big deal to get a PHP debugger up and running because anyone at all can do it. However, it is good to know going in. So debugging isn't just for development. Though a free trial of Retrace will bring powerful error monitoring and code improvement to your production applications. So which language scores here? Well, I would say that they tie, and that is because both languages have powerful first-class debuggers with excellent IDE integrations. Finally, let's look at language documentation. Now, when you are diving into a new project, good documentation is critical to your success. PHP has a robust documentation site with a unique feature. Developers can contribute comments on each documentation page. The documentation already effectively covers all of the built-in features in simple, plain language. The comments can be like an icing on top that help explain complicated concepts in a different way. There's one big drawback. Though those comments take forever, this means that when you are reading PHP's documentation pages, the comments that show up first are from very old versions of the language. Sometimes you'll be reading a comment left on a function's documentation page only to find out that the developers removed the behavior described 3 years ago. This leads to a lot of confusion, as you can imagine. Now, Python doesn't have that problem because their documentation doesn't allow comments. Their documentation is written in a less conversational tone. Some people find this helpful, while others have difficulty understanding it. But Python's documentation is also a bit more simple overall. Both of these languages leverage their documentations well. However, I need to pick a winner. In this case, I say that PHP's regularly outdated comments are enough to keep it from scoring a point here. Now, our final evaluation ends with Python holding a very slight edge over PHP. Honestly, that feels about right because both PHP 7 and Python 3 are excellent choices for building a web application in 2020 and beyond. But if I had to choose, I will pick Python. Now, when you are comparing PHP and Python, which should you choose? Well, that depends on what you need. Do you need to share environments on the same PC? Python is almost certainly the right answer. Are there developers on your team who already know some PHP? Now, if yes, PHP is probably your best bet. Now, does your application require great Unicode support? If yes again, then Python will be the best way to go. Now, no matter which way you go, it is not about PHP versus Python. The key is to get out there and build something amazing with any of these languages because when it comes to picking between PHP and Python, you can't make a wrong decision. So this sums it up for some of the key differences that exist between PHP and Python. Now, if you are new to this channel and found this video informative, then click on the subscribe button and the bell notification icon below so that you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.